climbing rose. It will help you with this video today if you watch our other videos on pruning a hybrid tea rose. That'll give you a basis for all of our language of pruning and the techniques. But this climbing rose is about 50 years old, so it has different challenges than a newer rose would have. So let's get in a little closer and I'm going to show you the different cuts. Climbing roses come in different mature size. So you could get a climber that only grows to about 6 feet. This one is, I believe, probably more of a rambler rose, which could probably cover this whole fence in no time. But I'm trying to keep it groomed more like just a regular climbing rose. So I'm going to show you some different cuts so that you know what I'm talking about when I say a heading cut or a thinning cut. A thinning cut would be when you want to remove an entire stem from its origin. This stem is coming straight out and I'm not going to want it anyway. So I have my cutting blade closest to the origin so I can make a nice clean cut there. A heading cut would be, let's say we wanted to do a heading cut on this little guy. We would cut anywhere in the growth of the stem. So this would be a heading cut, right above a growth node right here. So we have heading cuts and thinning cuts. The first thing to do is visualize what you're trying to achieve with your rose. And with this one, I'm trying to take out a lot of the bulk. I'm going to remove dead, damaged, diseased, and some of the crossing. But with this one, there's still going to be some crossing branches probably when I'm finished. So the first thing I'm going to start doing, I have visualized already, and I don't want this rose coming this far out. So one of the first things I'm going to do is just start cutting this away. And I'm going to visually follow with my eyes, I'm going to follow this all the way down to its origin. First, I'm going to remove some more of this, and you can make it easy on yourself if you take more cuts rather than less to try to get each piece out of your way. Now here's my piece I'm working on, the stem, and I'm going to go all the way down and do a heading cut right here and see if that'll stimulate some new canes in the spring. Here's an example of a cane, or you could call it a cane, a stem, or in this case a leader, because here's the tip of it. I never cut it. Your new canes, you can guide them along as far away as you'd like, as long as you'd like your leader to be, and then you can cut it and not let it grow any longer. Here is what happened when I bent this cane when it was young and pliable, and look what happened. All of these nodes broke bud, they pushed new growth, came up, and it bloomed at the tip. Every one of these bloomed at the tip. Instead of, if you don't bend the leader's going to want to grow straight up into the sky and bloom only at the tip above your head. So the key to climbing roses is gently bending them when they're younger. Now they don't have to be completely horizontal. If you have a pillar you're growing your rose on, you're going to want to gently wrap it around or curve it in front of your pillar, it's called apical dominance, just like with other plants, in the tip. So in this tip right here, there's apical dominance, so it's telling all of these nodes below it to not grow so much. And if this was growing straight up, then all of these nodes would push growth, but they wouldn't really bloom. The bloom would be in the dominant part at the tip. So when you bend it, all of these nodes get the message to push their own growth, like this one right here, pushes this growth and would bloom on a shorter tip. So you get a whole bunch of flowers instead of just a couple at the tip of the leader. So at this time of year, the dormant time of year, you have to come back and do your pruning on these leaders. And you can keep these stems for a few years while they're still blooming well for you. But you have to come in every dormant season and do some grooming so that you can have good air circulation, encourage good blooming, and that it's not crowded, so that good air circulation. So the first thing I'm going to do is get rid of anything that's coming straight forward. I'm also looking to leave about this much room in between my growth points here so that it's not crowded. So I'm going to flip my pruner over so my blade is close. So I get a really close cut there. And then this one and this one, they're pretty scrawny. This one looks nice and full, and I think I want to keep this one. So I'm looking in the back to see where my growth nodes are. Like here's one here, and I don't actually see one at the back, but I'm going to go right about there. When you prune your climbing rose at this time of year, you want to leave 2 to 3 growth nodes on this heading cut that you do. And then each one of those is going to push some growth. Now see this in behind here. I've got an extra guy in the back that I don't need. So I'm going to prune him out. And then I want some space in between. I'm going to do a thinning cut on this one. Here's one coming forward. I'm going to do a thinning cut on that one. From each of these nodes, new growth will push and bloom at the tips, like this one did. This is a desirable leader. I want to keep this leader, so it goes all the way up here. Here is how I tied this in. I used green twine, and I've put a cross in the twine right here so that the stem can move in the slightest breeze. It'll be fine, and it's not slammed up against the fence. People tend to tie their ties on their climbing roses too tight, and they slam them up against the fence. Here's an example of how to tie your canes. This older cane is very heavy, so I used a double tie, and I've tied it to this eye screw into the fence. But I needed to tie this back because it was sticking out too far. Here's the finished cane, and I've done the heading cuts, leaving a couple of nodes, 2 or 3 nodes on each one, and those will start to grow, and then they'll bloom at their tips. Now this is an old rose, very old rose, and I have to work with what I have. Even though I have crossing stems and kind of, when you look down there you see it's going this way and that, I have cleared out a lot of the old growth. And up here you can see I've done the same thing. I've done my heading cuts, leaving space in between. And I'm even going to do a follow-up pruning in the spring when this starts to push growth. I'll be doing more thinning cuts. I'll be thinning out from the origin to make even more room in between the new growth. But you can look down and see how every cane, I have it in more of a horizontal shape so that the blooms will push from those dormant buds. I've allowed some new canes to climb into this lilac. I pruned out the older canes that were in the lilac because they were much too heavy for this little lilac. But I've allowed this new cane, I've guided it in here, and it goes off, and it's going to be very pretty when they both bloom at the same time.